Hi, I'm Michael Key, host of the Real Conservative Talk podcast. About 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden came out and put out new vaccine mandates. In those vaccine mandates, he said that he wanted all businesses over 100 employees to make all of their employees get vaccinated or show one negative COVID test. He also is forcing all federal employees to get vaccinated at risk of being terminated. I've seen an argument go around on Facebook and on other social media platforms, and I wanted to address that argument. So today I wrote out some notes that I'm going to follow on this podcast. It's going to be a little bit different. Those of you that are usually listening to me know that I like to cuss and rant and rave. And while there may be some of that in here, I'm going to follow the script. The argument I've heard is, so you're against vaccine mandates, but you are not against wearing a seatbelt or running a red light or other mandates that are in place that have consequences. While you may be right, and not wearing a seatbelt or running a red light do have consequences, there's a difference. If I don't feel like wearing a seatbelt or I feel like running a red light, then I can just choose another form of transportation like riding a bike or taking a bus to get to work or get to wherever it is that I'm going. And if I find another form of transportation and show up on time, then I've avoided the mandate without any consequence. Or if I can get to whatever my destination is, utilizing another form of transportation, I have found a way around not wearing a seatbelt or my possibility of running a red light or speeding or whatever it may be. And I've done so without consequence. Negative consequence. However, when it comes to a vaccine mandate, I'm only presented with one option, and that is to either take the vaccine or not take the vaccine and potentially lose my job. Because in some places wearing a mask is mandated, even if you're vaccinated, there is no alternative to get a desired outcome. Thus, these vaccine mandates are a form of coercion by the government because threatening only one avenue to get to a desired outcome. There is no alternative. It is this or that. You can take the vaccine or you cannot take the vaccine. I myself am fully vaccinated. I am for getting vaccinated, but I'm not for forcing someone to get vaccinated. I think that being vaccinated is a personal choice and should be a personal choice. It is not up to the government to force anyone to do anything that they are not wanting to do. When the outcome of a decision, in this example, the outcome is employment, and I'm going off of Joe Biden's mandates and what he specifically said. I've listened to the speech time and time again. When the outcome of a decision, in this example is employment, is monopolized by one party, that party controls every avenue possible to get a desired outcome, then that is totalitarian. You have two choices to get vaccinated or not vaccinated. If you get vaccinated, then you will still face other mandates such as mask mandates, number of guest limitations, etc. But you will be allowed to show up at events and do business or be employed or whatever. However, if you do not get vaccinated, then you still have to face the same mandates as a vaccinated person, but you will not be able to do business or be employed by the government, while at the same time being at risk of losing your job if you work in a business that has over 100 employees. Again, there's no other options that are being presented. It is not you take the vaccine or you must go do some other form of treatment. It is take the vaccine or do not take the vaccine. They're also not presenting any other options, such as if you are not vaccinated, then you must wear a mask in public. In fact, There are some places that even if you're vaccinated, they still have mask mandates. They still have guest limitations, like I said prior in this episode. Nothing is different. The Biden administration wants to disallow unvaccinated people from doing anything to supposedly protect vaccinated people. When the government is making statements like this, then they're implying that one class of person is better than another class of person. There's no difference between saying that we are going to protect American citizens from terrorists. A terrorist chooses a life that brings terror down on an innocent people, thus forming a need for protection against them. An unvaccinated person is choosing a life of being unvaccinated, and the government is making statements like, quote, "We need to protect our vaccinated people from our unvaccinated people," establishing a need for protection against an unfavorable class. The government is making it seem as though the class of unvaccinated individuals are a threat to society, when in all actuality, you can make an argument that unvaccinated individuals require more protection from vaccinated individuals because someone who is vaccinated may not be taking the same precautions as someone who is unvaccinated, especially when a vaccinated individual can still get COVID and still give COVID in no lesser form than someone who is unvaccinated. The government should not reward nor punish the free choice of the American population, and should be there merely to mediate options, not mandate them. Why does the government not enforce the need for a flu shot when in Tennessee, the state that I live in, I see schools and offices being shut down every year due to flu outbreaks? When the flu to young and elderly people is just as deadly as COVID, and that's because that the flu is old news and being politicized long before any current politician was in office. There is nothing to gain or lose by discussing any form of the flu, but there is a lot to gain or lose politically when it comes to COVID. It all goes back to the fact, something I've discussed in my other episodes, that there's no consequence for being wrong, but there's negative consequences for saying that you're unsure about something, and there's high reward for guessing and being right. We saw this with Governor Cuomo and the nursing home residents. We saw this with CNN's misleading criticism of Joe Rogan's ivermectin treatment, and Gavin Newsom's recall for the poor mishandling of not only COVID, but the entire state of California. While Governor Cuomo had to step down and Gavin Newsom faced a recall, Cuomo stepped down not for COVID deaths and being wrong, but for actually breaking the law in a sexual assault case. And Gavin Newsom was voted back in by the same people that called for a recall. CNN, however, never faced any kind of scrutiny or punishment for its false covering of ivermectin as a treatment when talking about Joe Rogan. So it all goes back to, my final thoughts on this is the government, and Joe Biden in particular, the Biden administration, separating two classes of people, the vaccinated and unvaccinated. You have one group is going to make it seem like the other side is the bad person. And this happens every day. Someone's always wrong, someone's always right. But the problem is that there's no consequence for being wrong. There never is. That's why we have so much misinformation out there. That's why so many people are against taking the vaccine, probably. But one thing is sure is that the government's handling and treatment of people that choose not to take a vaccine is overstepping. We have rights as American citizens that we have free choice. And in the eyes of God, too. But Joe Biden, in his speech, quote, "This isn't about your rights or your freedom. This is about protecting yourself." No, Joe Biden. It's about our fucking rights. And it's about our fucking freedom. And I'm going to end on that.